Hello, welcome back to the Earle Wellbeing YouTube channel. Well, today you join me in my studio's kitchen because I'm going to be talking about some of the surprising kitchen habits that could in fact be having a very detrimental effect on our health. Intrigued? Let's get into it. So yeah, normally when I'm in my kitchen, we'll be talking about nutrition, plating up a really delicious, healthy meal, but today I wanted to shift the conversation slightly because not only is the type of food we eat obviously really important, but how we cook that food is also key, and the things we use to cook it with. So I want to talk first about acrylamide. Now that is a chemical that naturally forms in food when it's roasted, when it's fried, or if it's grilled at high temperatures. And it mainly forms from sugars and amino acids. When these combine, they create aromas and flavour, but this process also causes the browning of our food. And this is what produces acrylamide. So starchy, carbohydrate foods, bread, when you turn it into toast, can form acrylamide. Things like potatoes, root veggies, all that sort of thing. So what's the problem? Well, research in animals has shown that acrylamide is toxic to DNA and causes cancer. And as such, it is considered to be a potential cancer risk to us humans too. Now, cancer.gov reports on its website that, quote, studies in rodent models have found that acrylamide exposure increases the risk for several types of cancer. Now in the body, acrylamide is converted to a compound called glycidamide, which causes mutations in and damage to DNA, end quote. Now so far there hasn't been any consistent evidence that dietary acrylamide exposure is associated with the risk of any type of cancer in humans. And yes, of course, we probably metabolize acrylamide in a different way to rodents, or maybe not. But I do think that it's at least worth bearing in mind. Now remember, it's incredibly difficult to determine a person's acrylamide intake throughout their whole life. We might be getting it from all sorts of sources, compared to a rat in a lab where we can measure it. So just because there isn't conclusive evidence yet, doesn't mean that we should ignore this warning. So yeah, I am careful about this one. Don't eat burnt toast. And here in the UK, at least, the Food Standards Agency, that's the FSA, has issued warnings about acrylamide. So to avoid high doses of acrylamide, the FSA recommends aiming for a golden yellow colour or lighter when frying or baking or toasting and roasting starchy foods, and to follow the cooking instructions when cooking any packaged foods. Now previously there had also been recommendations to avoid refrigerating things like raw potatoes because this was thought that it could cause something called cold sweetening, leading to the formation of additional sugars that can then convert to acrylamide when the potatoes are cooked. However, the FSA now states, and this is a quote from them, a recent study, which has been reviewed by the Committee on the Toxicity of Chemicals in Food, Consumer Products and the Environment, a bit of a mouthful, it's short for COT, has shown that home storage of potatoes in the fridge does not materially increase acrylamide forming potential when compared to storage in a cool, dark place, end of quote. So maybe that's okay then. And just one more thing on this as well, because I was curious about the impact that air frying might have on acrylamide. Do you have an air fryer? Yeah, they're all the rage at the moment, aren't they? So air fryers are, when you read into them, often touted as being the healthy alternative to deep fryers. Why? Well, they use less oil, so you get less fat. But to be honest, this is where it all becomes a little bit confusing. There was a study in 2015 that found that air frying reduced acrylamide by up to 90% compared with traditional deep frying. Yeah, pretty impressive, wouldn't you say? Well, a more recent study published in the Frontiers of Nutrition, this was in 2024, found the exact opposite. Researchers from Turkey compared acrylamide formation in chips that were fried either by a deep fryer or an air fryer or in an oven. And they found that the highest acrylamide content was found in potatoes that were cooked using the air fryer, followed by the deep fryer, with very low levels found in oven frying or baking technically. So the researchers of this study concluded the quote by saying, although air fryers, which have become widely used as an alternative to deep frying in recent years, provide French fries with less oil, their role in the formation of acrylamide should be further investigated, end of quote. So I don't think we've got the whole story yet when it comes to air fryers. For me, I'm just not sold on them for now. Now, something else that many of us might be tempted to do, especially at the end of a busy day, is to microwave our leftovers in a plastic container like this. But you guessed it, a big no. A study published in 2023 in Environmental Science and Technology found that microwaving a reusable plastic container released a staggering amount of microplastics and nanoplastics into food. And the team reported that, and I quote, it was found that some containers could release as many as 4.22 million microplastic and 2.11 billion nanoplastic particles from 1 square centimetre of plastic area within 3 minutes of microwave heating. And given that microplastics have now even been found in our brains, research earlier this year revealed that human brains contain approximately a spoon's worth of microplastics. I think this one is really important. Plus, there is also data to show that levels of microplastics are 3 to 5 times higher in those with documented dementia. Scary stuff indeed. So finally, let's talk about non-stick pans. Worth it? Well, your fried egg might glide neatly off onto the plate. And this is another habit that I'm actually going to be swerving. Why? Well, there's been considerable concerns around some of the chemicals that these pans are coated with. So much of the concern has surrounded these with Teflon coatings and a chemical called perfluorooctanoic acid. Yeah, bit of a tongue twister. You'll be pleased to know that it is otherwise known as PFOA. So PFOA has actually been linked to a number of health conditions, serious ones, including thyroid, liver disease, and infertility. Now, this chemical was actually removed from Teflon products in 2013, but there are still some components, such as PFAs, used in these coatings that we don't yet fully understand. And should we overheat something, really common if you're frying, or the pan has become scratched, also really common, there's no telling how many of these chemicals will leach into our food, so no thank you. If you don't want these types of pans, I would say be mindful. If you can, get rid of any older pans. Make sure the ones that you're using are in good condition with no scratches, no little flaky bits that are going to then transfer into your food. So my choice would be to opt for something more stable when you're cooking. Stainless steel, that's a classic, isn't it? It's very non-reactive, it's very stable, can get a bit sticky, I admit. So this is where something like cast iron, for example, might work better. They're more expensive, but they're investment pieces. They last literally a lifetime or longer. The cast iron ones are actually better, naturally non-stick, if your food is well seasoned. And the drawback is that, they are, of course, pricey. But as I say, they can be a really good investment, so maybe worth looking at. It's all interesting stuff, isn't it? And did any of these things that I've talked about surprise you today? What healthy habits do you have at home for supporting your well-being? Have you changed how you cook or store food, perhaps? As ever, I'd love to hear. Do pop a comment below. Let's keep this conversation going. So until the next time, it'd be really amazing if you could like this video, share it with others, maybe subscribe to our channel, because it really does help us reach more people. And I think that a lot of the information that we talk about here is really important. It's really good well-being wisdom that you can trust. So until the next time we chat here, go very well. Bye-bye.